Welcome to the Honest Art Podcast. I'm your host, Jody King. As an artist for 20 years, instructor, speaker, author, and fellow rebel, I've worked with thousands of people around the world, from beginners to established artists, helping them create their strongest art and build a career doing what they love. So if you are ready to have a little fun while you learn about art, creativity, building a thriving art business, and living a bold, audacious life, you are in the right place. Also, if you're considering going pro in your art business, grab the PDF in the show notes on the 5 things they don't teach you in art school. All right, let's get messy. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Honest Art Podcast. I'm Jody King, your host, and I've got a real treat for you today. Well, it's a real treat for me, I will say. And so hopefully you'll consider it a treat for you as well. But I have got one of my teammates on the call. Actually, she is the first person I ever hired with Jody King Media. She's still with me, and her name is Yasmine Kashefi. And you're going to get to hear all about her, but I wanted to bring her on for you guys because Yasmine has really transformed my business. She has helped me look at art and at really everything from a broader perspective, a bigger perspective. And she helps me behind the scenes in ways that, there's in just countless ways. So welcome, Yasmine Kashefi.
Thank you. It's so exciting to be here on the podcast.
I know you know so much of it from behind the scenes. Now you're like,
oh yeah,
the specialist. Well, let me just tell everybody a little bit more about you. So they will understand just who we are dealing with in the room right now.
Sounds good.
I might be the president of your fan club, by the way.
Aw, thank you. I feel like I'm the president of yours because I just tell people how much I love you all the time.
After all these years too, we're still like fangirling over each other. Okay, so let's get everybody fangirling over you. So Yasmine is a multi-passionate entrepreneur, former corporate strategist, and digital marketer who has built a 6-figure... Wait. Hold on. This is important. Let me back that truck up. Who has built a multi-6-figure consulting firm by helping businesses scale and run efficiently. She is armed, love that. She is armed with an MBA and over a decade of experience growing businesses and teams. And she now works with ambitious, creative female entrepreneurs and e-commerce businesses who are looking to scale their business to new heights. And you certainly do that. I can say that firsthand experience. She supports long-term success by developing, selecting, and implementing sustainable growth strategies to drive business goals. Think of her as the tech and spreadsheet loving. God, that is so true. You love a spreadsheet.
As the
tech and spreadsheet loving right hand to your creative vision. You've got the ideas, and she's got the plan and the spreadsheet. I'm so glad you're here, Yasmine. You are going to help so many artists today.
I'm so excited. And again, as someone who doesn't necessarily identify as an artist, but identifies as like a very crafty person, I love artists and I love working with creative brains because I get it, but I also really love like the math and the spreadsheet and like the nitty gritty side of things. So it's always fun bringing like, solid business strategies to creative minds and helping them grow and scale. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, as somebody who I feel like I love that, not to say that it's only right brain or only left brain, but I also feel like I love that business strategy. That also feels really creative to me, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Not just the painting. What you do is highly creative.
Oh, absolutely. It's a lot of like brainstorming, ideation. You're looking at like what works and doesn't work. And it, I kind of think of it as like how you troubleshoot a painting, right? Like you're dealing with a problem at the end of the day and you need creative problem solving to resolve whatever conflict you're dealing with. You use paint and, mark making and colors. I use numbers and technology. to solve my
Yeah.
problems. Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm just going to tell people a little bit how we first started working together.
Mhm.
So, this was in 2019. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
Um, that I actually learned about you from my sister Dawn,
Hmm.
and I knew that I needed to reach more people, and I knew I needed to do it through technology, right? I needed to through email lists and digital marketing. I know you're going to talk a lot about that today. But I was also on a time crunch. Like I needed to get this done and I needed to get it done quickly and I needed to be done well. And I was lucky enough to find you from the get go. And you have, through expanding and helping me, especially with email marketing, digital
Hmm.
marketing, you also help me strategize all the time. But that was so key into the development and the growth of my business. And that's why I want so many artists, really every artist, to understand that. And by the way, I don't think I've worked with one artist yet who was like, "Yes, I can't wait to send out an email or to create an email list." Not one yet has ever said that, but it is huge in
Hmm.
the development of the business, and that's really what you have done. Not only are you a dear friend, but you've helped my business grow exponentially because of email and digital marketing and things like that. So just a big thank you to you.
Oh, you are so welcome. Again, you came with the ideas. We put together a plan and implemented it and made it work. So I couldn't have done it without you, but grateful to be part of the team and to have
Teamwork.
seen the growth. Yeah. Dream team.
Teamwork right makes the dream work. Okay, well tell everybody a little bit about yourself, about your background.
Sure. So I am based in Ontario, Canada. So I also bring some like northern flair to the team with
Yeah.
my Canadianisms. No A's though, unfortunately. I'm not that stereotypical. And my background actually originally started in digital marketing. I worked in PR straight out of university, then went on to work in social media and marketing. Worked at a couple of big agencies and big companies. My favorite at the time had been Apple. I was on their digital, or not digital, but their marketing team for a year. And as much as I loved marketing, I always yearned to solve bigger problems when it came to the business challenges that I saw that I was dealing with in my day to day. And as with marketing, you're dealing a lot with like the awareness and the conversion factor, but often there's other challenges that you need to overcome to make marketing work. And that wasn't in my like area of expertise. I wasn't allowed to touch those problems even though I wanted to. So that motivated me to go get my MBA. I got my MBA in 2015 was when I officially graduated, and was planning on going into management consulting, working with one of the big agencies in Toronto, but ultimately decided to sort of veer it out on my own due to an opportunity that fell in my lap, and from there built my own boutique corporate consulting business, which was super fun. I worked with a lot of big organizations, primarily in operations and strategy, and I love the business problems that I was solving. I did feel a little bit disconnected from the people that I was helping. I like to joke that I'm probably a little too like sparkly for corporate. I'm, not as,
I'm going to totally agree with that.
yeah. I like to think I have a bit of a personality, and the type of, person that I had to be working in a corporate setting was not like the real Yasmine. So I wanted to embrace her a little bit more, but also have a bigger impact on actual people versus, corporate profits and bottom line. So I took a big risk and basically sort of shut down a really successful corporate consulting company and veered into working with entrepreneurs. And it was a completely different ballgame, in the sense that I had to realize that, the strategies and stuff that I was implementing on a large scale could get implemented for smaller businesses, but I had to change the way I went about implementing them. So that required, focusing more on the individual like business goals and the person running the business to make sure that whoever I was supporting could understand like what we were implementing and it aligned with their values too. Because again, like I'm not about making sales and like taking advantage of people or being too aggressive and like that icky sales feeling that sometimes people get when they
Right.
try to like sell their products or their services. That doesn't jive with me personally. So I was super
And I
cognizant
love
of
that because I think that's another reason why we're so aligned, because I'm not about
yes,
that either. And anytime we start veering a little bit into maybe that's just starting to get a little bit like
we
that,
pull
we
back.
both like totally pull back. Yeah. So I
Mm-hmm.
could see where you would be like, yeah,
Absolutely.
that's not aligned.
Yeah, you want to sell authentically, especially as an artist, right? Because like you're putting so much of yourself into your work, right? You want to make sure that you're attracting like the right collectors, the right audience, and you want to feel good about how you're doing it. And with a lot of online sales strategies that we see even today, sometimes it feels a little like I want to say predatory, but like you're really like capitalizing on the fact that like some people have FOMO, and you're pushing sales versus really giving people the time and space to connect authentically with what you're offering and making that right purchase for themselves, right? And you're serving
Right. And
them
I
in a
think
way.
for sure. And I think that you just like really um, hit the nail on the head for why I think so many artists are reluctant to start an email
Mhm.
list and to start communicating, because we receive so many of those
Yep.
kinds of emails in our inbox, and we feel like, oh, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be the one that's sending that kind of stuff out. And so there's this real hesitation. I should have said this, by the way, at the beginning. um, but speaking of not wanting to be salesy and that sort of thing, Yasmine is like we said, she's part of my team, and we are in the process of talking to artists about Studio Elite, which is my highest touch um, intimate coaching program that starts in July. And one of the things that I love about Studio Elite and for those artists is they get an opportunity to work, to come to Austin and to work with my team, Yasmine being one of them. Sometimes Yasmine does it online, sometimes she's here. It just depends on what's going on with her family and her life. But anyway, I wanted everyone to get a chance to learn from you on the podcast. But I also want people who are interested in Studio Elite to know that they would get to you would get to support them through Studio Elite as well. Okay, go ahead, Yasmin. I'm sorry.
uh,
See, that's the thing is I don't ever want to be salesy or whatever. I just want to serve. And then I sometimes forget. Oh, you're doing this for.
but like you can serve through your offers, right? Like it's the
Right.
same like way where I work with you on your team and you compensate me fairly for my time and I try to drive positive business results. So you can have that exchange and it can still be transformative. It's just how you do it and how you go about doing it authentically. And like I just want to go back to what you're saying about emails and how it does feel kind of overwhelming because you're used to receiving like 5 emails a week from the Gap where they're having like a 40% off sale and then you can use your Gap cash and you feel like in order to like stand out and get people to notice your emails you have to adopt those same strategies. And the thing is that's not the case. That's a very like product driven email communication strategy that's focused heavily on driving sales through discounts. And you
Right.
don't have to do that. There's so many other ways that you can communicate with your audience, especially with an email list. So I don't want that to scare anyone away from starting an email list because there are so many benefits, which I mean, I can go into if you would like me to start with
Yes,
that.
I think
Okay.
that's a great idea because, like I said, I think there's such a resistance for people to start an email. Number one, there's resistance because like how, what kind of platforms, maybe you can talk
Mm-hmm.
about that a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. In the tech side, like I don't really know how to do that. So the how, and then the other part is like, but I don't want to be that person. And I think once we understand the real value of having an email list and being able to serve our audience in that way, then we're more inclined to do it. So yeah, take it away.
Absolutely. So let's start talking about like the value of an email list and like why it's still important in this day and age. So a lot of artists really start by promoting their products on social media, which is an absolutely crucial tool in your marketing mix. Like you kind of have to be on social media if you want to reach a wider and global audience that, exists outside of like your physical locality. And social media is great for generating that awareness and generating those initial connections and touch points. So, we've like Jody, like you've amassed 50,000 followers on Instagram, woo, by the way, organically. And you have like a
Yes.
super engaged Instagram audience, which is fantastic. I've seen like artists blow up on TikTok and, amass like massive followers and engagement. But the one thing that I want to remind people is as important as social media is, social media and the rules of reach and engagement are out of your hands. So Instagram can just change up their algorithm overnight and all of a sudden your engagement goes wah wah. And then you have to like figure out what the new strategies are to bring it back up. You can have incredible reach on your post, but then they drop it down to a couple percent. And the only way to like really reach people again is to overhaul your entire strategy to focus on virality, which then you're really creating content to appease an algorithm versus your audience specifically, or you have to pay to reach more people. And again, you're doing all this hard work and they're changing the rules on you. With your email list, once someone is on your list, like as long as you're engaging them with your content, they're on your list. Like your email server isn't going to all of a sudden like drop your reach down to 5% and say, you have to upgrade, to this super plan in order to reach 100% or like 90% of your list. Like that doesn't happen. Usually when we see like issues with deliverability in emails or like open rates, it's a content issue or like their email's been deactivated. But that happens at a much smaller scale than what you're dealing with in social media. So the way that I like to encourage artists to think of social media as like a discovery tool, it's what you use to build your top of funnel. So like when you think of selling to anyone, right, you need to reach a large amount of people. It's like a reverse pyramid, right? So up at the top, there's a lot of people, and then you get certain people engaged, and then you sort of nurture them and move them down the pipeline to get a sale. And
Right.
email lets you do that because once you've attracted them, you get them on your list, and you can use a combination of email and social media if they're getting your content on the platform to continue
Right.
to build that relationship, continue to build that connection. So when you do have something that you're offering for sale, whether it's like a collection, you're doing prints, or you have an art show or a workshop, they're already familiar with you. They already have that trust. So they're likely to open that email and make that purchase. You spend a lot
Right.
less time having to convince people to like buy your stuff.
Right. And I think you talk about this quite a bit, at least we do as a team, that social media is amazing, like you said, as far as reach and, like
Mm-hmm.
creating a global audience, getting people's eyes on you. But at the end of the day, it's still if we're talking about, warm audiences and cool
Mm-hmm.
audiences, it's still a cooler audience relatively to when people decide they want to get on your email list. Now they're
Mm-hmm.
a warmer audience, right? And you can nurture people on social media, you can see that you're doing a good job by your engagement rates. But like 2 weeks ago, Instagram went down
Mm-hmm.
and like nobody could post anything, right? So you could have the warmest audience ever, the highest engagement ever on Instagram, but if the platform goes down, you're screwed, right?
Yep. All those
So
followers you built. Like again, if Meta ever goes away completely, all those followers are gone. Whereas with your email list, as long as you're paying for that service, your list is there. And if you ever decide to stop paying for that service or you want to export that list, you have that option too to literally export a spreadsheet with all the names and email addresses of everyone who signed up for your list. So you always have that information there, and it's information that you own. You can't really track
right,
that down
right.
on Instagram. You're not gonna like have to Google all 50,000 followers to find out what their email
Right.
addresses are. That's like impossible. But as long as you have your email list, you have a way of connecting with that audience.
For sure. And as an example of this, we just hosted an art show recently and posted about it on social media. That was great. But on Instagram, at least right now, only about 11% of our followers actually see our content.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if,
And
but
that's a
on
high
with an,
engagement rate, by the way. Like that's a high engagement rate for Instagram. I think it
right.
averages more like under like 4 or 5%.
Yes, exactly, exactly. But with your email, you can send it directly to the people that
Mm-hmm.
are interested in you, interested in your work, interested in your content, right? So it's just, I think an email list for an artist is absolutely, that's just a non-negotiable if you want to sell your art, let people know what you're up to if you're going to teach a workshop, regardless of what it might be.
Yeah, and like one other super cool thing about an email list, it's a little bit harder to do with social media, is you can actually segment your audience. It's a bit more of like an advanced technique, but it basically means like let's say you have a list of 1,000 people, but you have an art show in Austin, and about 200 people on your list are also in like that Austin area. Well, you can create a little list within your email list. It's like list inception, a list within a list, and you can email just those people with a highly targeted, super relevant message. So that's actually a strategy that we implemented for Jody's art show. We did let everyone know at first because someone in Canada could happen to be in Texas that week and might want to check it out. But as we got closer to the event, we started narrowing down our geographic scope of inviting people, just so when we're doing our sort of last call, it was going to the people it would make sense who could adjust their schedule to show up the next day versus someone in Germany who were now kind of like just emailing about something that's not relevant to them. So the more relevant you make your content to your audience, the higher your open rates and the higher your engagement rates, which ultimately helps the performance of your emails.
Yeah. Well, that's, that to me, that is that was really successful, by the
Mm-hmm.
way, that we did that. We had tons of people that showed up.
It was
All
packed.
right, so it was just amazing. So do you have any statistics? I know we talked about statistics for social media, but for artists who are still, they're listening and they're still like, no, I don't want to do that. Do you have any statistics that could help encourage artists even more to embrace the idea of starting an email list?
So, in terms of stats, we actually saw a huge increase in email engagement and just email marketing adoption and responsiveness during the pandemic. And again, I know that's like a couple years ago, but a lot of those trends still have stuck and exist. So we know that there are close to like 5 billion daily email users, which is a lot of people. I mean, that's globally, but the strong majority of people have at least like one email account. They have a means of checking their email on a consistent basis. So your chance of reaching them and getting your message across is pretty high. Marketers on average will see a $36 return on investment for every dollar that they invest in email marketing. And you can think of that in terms of, the cost of your service. If you hire like a copywriter, if you hire, a tech person, like that's like the investment in email marketing. But again, that's a really high ROI. And I mean, I
That's
can attest,
huge.
yeah, and I can attest, like we see that on your list when we're doing, sales and promotions, I would say a solid chunk. I try to like go through the average number and determine what percentage it was beforehand. But I think like 70 to 75% of our sales will come from our emails that we send out. So
unbelievable.
And again, it's not that like social media is less effective, but we're reaching more people. We're able to target our message. We're able to have a little bit more room to explain that value proposition, because one of the things that we're very big on in Jody's business is offering value through serving people with the products that we create, especially on like the course side. And obviously with the paintings, artwork that people connect with, we're able to tell that story a little bit more. And with social media, again, it does help us sell paintings. I know we've sold lots of artwork just from Jody posting that, hey, I have a new painting available. But you're limited in terms of how many people are actually going to see that message. So you might have a collector on your list that like loves your stuff. And if you just post that on social media, there's an 11% chance that they're going to be one of the 50,000 people who actually see that offer is up for sale and that painting is available. Whereas with your email list, they love Jody. So they're like, oh, new email for Jody, let me check it out. Increases the chances that they're going to actually see that content because it's in their inbox and they know it's coming from you and choosing to open it. So great ROI. And then the other thing that we've noticed is, despite the fact that we are getting a lot of emails and, sometimes it can feel overwhelming, marketers have noticed that there has been an increase in email engagement over the past couple of years. So that number's actually gone up around like 50 to 70% in terms of just more emails sort of being opened. And I think it's a result of the shift that we saw in the pandemic, where more businesses ended up going online, stopped relying exclusively on brick and mortar. And, you could argue that like, well, that saturated the pool a little bit more. But, if you have a connection with someone and you love their artwork or love what they do, you're still going to open their emails, right? So you might not open other emails, but you'll open their emails. So they're seeing greater email engagement. They're seeing email working better for them for driving sales.
For sure. And, right now, I think there are some artists out there listening and they're like, okay, fine. I get it. I know I should do this.
You should,
totally should. And I'm going to get you to get us, to give us like some easy things that artists can do to start. But one thing I want to just add, because, you're talking about the statistics of people opening the emails and how many people have emails and everything. And one thing I hear from artists is that nobody needs another email in their inbox. Like you said, we do get a lot of emails. Mm-hmm. And so some of the resistance that I've heard is, I don't want to be one of those people that's just another email in their inbox. And I'm going to tell you, before Yasmine tells you the things that you can do to get started, I'm just going to tell you, Yasmine, I think you could probably attest to this. You are not the Gap. Mm-hmm. You are not some of these big retail marketers. You are not I get so many political emails right now. You are not a politician. You are not you are not a nobody. You are, first of all, you're a motherfucking artist. So there's that inherently makes you more interesting. But if somebody has joined your email list, they know you are not some big, huge, like they want to hear from you. You are inherently interesting because you are an artist. I know that before I ever had an email list, I followed a few artists and I couldn't wait to open their emails to see what they were up to. So just know you're not just another one of those big stores that are
absolutely
sending out tons of emails.
And like, I just want to take a moment to have you like go back and think about like why you signed up for emails from the Gap. It was probably because if you gave them your email, you would have received 30% off like jeans. Why not? Who doesn't want 30% off jeans, right? When you sign up for an artist's email list, like, yes, it could be because they have some sort of like offer, savings on a painting. But like, I have signed up for so many artists' email lists because I literally saw their work, fell in love with it, and wanted to know when they're releasing more artwork because I like to collect art and put it around my walls and make my house happy, So it's because of that connection that I had with what they created, and less so because like I'm waiting to find out if I'm going to get like another 30% off. That's not the main motivator. So they want to connect with you because, like Jody said, you're a badass and you're an amazing artist. So think about their intentions when they're on your list, and why you're not just not another email to them.
Exactly. We are not the same.
Mm-hmm.
This is apples and oranges for sure.
100%.
Okay, so give
tech.
it to us. We've got an artist out there. They finally get, yes, I need to start an email list. What are 3 things that, or if you have more, that's fine, or 2, whatever, that are easy things to do that artists can do to start this week?
Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to say, and this could be dependent on like what's going on in your life that week, but if you're doing anything in person, do it old school and literally have like a piece of paper where people can like write their name and their email list, so you can start collecting email addresses.
That's how I started.
Yeah. And I've seen like artists like, use like a raffle as a way of doing it. Like, give me your email list or your email and you can be entered to win like, a print or something, or a small painting. I've seen artists just literally have a list out at a show or at like an event, and you could just like write your name if you want to learn more, start there. And the other thing that you can do is also ask like the people in your life, friends, family, if they don't mind you adding them to your email list so they can keep up with your art journey. That's your starting point, right? And you might think, well, like, my mom's not going to like buy another painting for me, or like, my cousin or something, but they could potentially forward your emails when you have a release onto people, and you're making it really easy for them to spread that message around, right? By being on your list. So start with the people that you know. I'm a big believer of like asking for permission before you just add people to your list, because there are certain laws that we do have to abide by in North America, Europe, with respect to like using people's email addresses. Family's probably not going to report you, but best practice, always ask permission, because we do that online as well. The second thing that I want you to do is sign up for an email service. Now, there are several that I can recommend. In terms of free ones, I think like MailChimp is the most popular way to start. That's where Jody started, actually. We ended up moving her over to another service that I love called ActiveCampaign, which lets you do a lot more advanced things. But MailChimp is a really, really great all-in-one tool for getting started. You set up an account, you can send emails through it, and then you can set up what we call like a landing page, which within like MailChimp itself, you can have it within MailChimp, or you can like take what we call the email sign-up form and put it on your website, which depending on your comfort with tech could be easy or maybe a little difficult, but you can start with MailChimp, create a little landing page, and drive people to put in their name and their email address to learn more. So
okay, so before we talk about the landing page, because I didn't know what that term meant, but before you talk about that, a question I get is, why can't I just send it from my email address? Why do I need to sign up for one of these email marketing services? Why can't I just send it from my email address?
Honestly, I'll give you 2 reasons. One is with your email address, like just collecting names, sometimes it can be a little bit more difficult to like verify consent that people have been added to your list, from just like a legal business standpoint. Other thing is like the professionalness, because you're going to have to like BCC everyone. So it's going to say like, to hello@jodyking.com, BCC. You don't see the names, but like that you've been BCC'd. So just from that perspective, optics, I think using an email service looks a little bit more legit. Emails, I have a few reasons. I said 2, but I think I have like 4. The second reason is An email service actually gives you really great statistics and analytics, which are really important to understanding how to grow your email list and what type of content to create. So the two key things that we want to look at, like very basic stats, is your email open rate. So that is, of the people that you emailed, of 100 people, what percentage of them opened your email? And you want to be above 20%. The smaller your list, usually the higher your number. But like, if I'm allowed to say, Jody, like our open rate is like close to like 40-45% on a lot of our emails, which is like really high for the list size that Jody has. She has like thousands and thousands and thousands of people on her list. So it's because of that data, we know what subject lines to use and what type of content resonates with people. The other stat that you really want to look at is your click-through rate, which is the number of people who have opened that email, who've actually clicked through to your website or to a painting that you have available, or to get like a ticket to your art show or workshop. And again, that tells you that people are actually reading your email and are interested enough in your offer to engage, and that can help you determine where to position what we call calls to action. So that's the actual like link, the action you want people to take in your email and so on. So you don't get that if you're just BCCing people from your Gmail account.
Right. And I think you also, we talked about this early on, but if you've got 50 people that you're trying to email, like let's just say you're just starting your list and you've got 50 people you're trying to email and you BCC, that's one thing. But the whole idea is to grow your list, right? And I don't think you can BCC 1,000 people, can you?
No, like, I mean, maybe. I think there are limits. I've never actually like looked into it because I've never had to BCC that many people. But that was the other thing. It's list management, right? With an email service, it makes it easier because you literally have people on a list. You just check off that these are the people that you want to email. It also handles things like unsubscribes, bounces, etc., which again are also super important for having, again, consent and just like keeping an active, warm list. And then the fourth thing that I was going to say is that so many email services these days have like really easy like drag and drop tools and templates. So it's super simple to make a beautiful email. You don't have to be like too graphic heavy. Like we err on the side of, minimal images, unless we're focusing on promoting like actual artwork where we incorporate a few more images of the actual artwork, but we use text for that connection. Trying to format that in Gmail could be messy. And then the other thing is these email services take into consideration how your email is going to look on mobile, on desktop, on different email platforms. And sometimes with like just using a Gmail, like as your builder or Outlook, it's not going to translate as well. And when you're thinking about selling art, the optics and the aesthetics are super important, right? You want your art to speak for itself. So if people can't load the images for whatever reason, if it's looking wonky, that's going to impact your sales. So highly recommend sign up for MailChimp. There are a few others that I can recommend that are like great beginner email services. I think they're paid though. So ConvertKit's another one. Flowdesk is one that I haven't personally used, but I've heard from like artists that they like because again, it's very visual, very easy to drag and drop and to manage. But MailChimp kind of has like an all-in-one solution and it's free up into a certain point. And once you grow your list, which again is the goal, that's when you can upgrade to a paid account.
Right. Okay. No, I agree. I just wanted to be clear with people. Like, I know you want to just keep it as easy as possible and not add all of this tech stuff in it, but it really is important to go with an email service provider because ultimately that's the direction you're going, is to grow your list and to be able to look legit as hell. Okay.
I have one more thing to say.
We're going to,
Sorry.
Yes, go.
So because you said like 3 things that they can get started. So we talked about like how to start even if you don't have an email service. We talked about getting an email service. And the third thing is content. So what do you want to communicate to your audience and how often? You don't have to write it out at this point, but just think about the cadence in which you want to connect with your audience. I think that consistency is way more important than quantity. If you tell people you're going to do a monthly update, which most people won't object to because that's not spamming their inboxes, or a weekly update, as long as you can stick to that and you can develop the content for it, that's fine. It could be bi-monthly. I like to set an expectation when I have people sign up for emails as like, how often they can expect to hear from me. Just let them know, like, they can expect to hear from you like once a month and learn more about the behind the scenes, any collections that you have available, any art shows and workshops. And that's it. Like, just let them know what they're getting. And that actually really helps with your open rates, because people know the cadence in which they can expect to hear from you. And it helps with the engagement because they know what type of content to expect and that you're not going to be, utilizing their emails for nefarious purposes.
Right. And so I'm glad you brought up the cadence, because it can feel overwhelming at first. Like, oh, now I have to write all these emails all the time, and I have to always have this content, and I don't know what to put in the email. But if you're like, you know what, I'm just going to start with one email a month, I can do that, right?
Yeah. Share what's inspiring you. Share what you're working on. Let people know if you're working on a collection. Here's a preview of one of the pieces. You can talk about any events that you have coming up. Again, it's honestly, I swear, I know it's like, talking about something once a month, it's not that hard. You are interesting enough that you can find one thing about your art that you can talk about. And it doesn't have to be like a novel. It can be, a couple of short paragraphs. It's just a matter of maintaining that connection and keeping your raving fans up to date.
Yeah, I just received an email from an artist this past week, and all it was her saying what she was, her things that she was reading recently, some movies that she had watched recently. I think she put a photo of where she and her family had traveled, and maybe like a recipe. I don't know. It's something I just thought, well, this is exactly the point. It is making me feel more connected to her as an artist. And it really is, when we talk about serving our audience or nurturing our audience, it's as simple as that. Right. And she's not trying to sell me anything. She's not trying to sell me any art. She's not trying to sell me a service, anything. She's just kind of like, hey, I'm still here. It's like a friendship. If you just bounce and you just never communicate with a friend, it's hard to keep that relationship going sometimes.
Especially if you only communicate with them when you're just asking for something, right? That's why value is so important. And you can intersperse a lot of value in that sort of monthly content plan that you develop.
Yes, for sure. Okay. Now, anything else that you wanted to talk about? You mentioned landing page. I don't know that everybody knows what a landing page is. Do you want to share that?
Yeah. So when you think of your website, right, you land on your website, there's a lot of places that you can go, right? You can learn more about you. You can go to your shop. You can, learn how to contact you, etc. A landing page has a lot of different, there's different levels of landing pages, but I'm going to talk about the most simple one. The goal of a landing page is to take someone directly to the desired action you want them to take. So if you have in your link tree in your Instagram, sign up for my newsletter, you don't want to drive them to your website where they have to scroll down and then find the little box at the bottom to join your newsletter. You want to take them to a separate page, and the only thing on that page is hi, I'm Jody, I'm an artist. I'd love for you to sign up for my email list. This is what you can expect to hear from me every month. And all they have to do is put in their name and their email address, and they hit submit, and that's it. So it's very focused on the desired action that you want to take. So they land on the page, they take the action. That's a landing page. You can create landing pages for lots of things as you advance. You might have a landing page for a collection, right? So instead of driving people to your website where they have to click on new, you drive them to the collection page. That in itself is a landing page for that specific call to action. But for email, sign up for my newsletter, just take them to a page with a form where they can sign up, and you tell them a little bit about who you are and what they can expect.
Okay, perfect. Now, next question.
Yes.
Because I know a lot of artists are thinking this right now. They're like, okay, I've got social media. You just said a word, Linktree. I'll explain that. Linktree is just like if you have several different offers, one being to get on my email list, one, for me, email list, podcasts, paintings, whatever. So there's so many links. There's only one link in your social media on Instagram. So you take them to it's called a link tree. But here's the question, Yasmine. I know a lot of artists are like, I don't have a website. Can I still start an email list without a website?
Yes, because that's like literally a means of communicating with people. So you can go to MailChimp, set up a landing page within MailChimp, and that can be sort of your call to action where you drive people to sign up for your email list. Because again, when you release a new collection, you have a way of communicating with people, even if you don't have a website to show your wares for sale. You can have them email you to purchase something, but you're able to communicate with them en masse, and you don't have to go through your Gmail and copy and paste 50 or 100 email addresses, or again, put it out on social media and only have 11% of your audience see. So
Exactly.
if you don't have a website,
Exactly.
do both. Have your email list, use social media, but have your email list. That's the easiest place to start.
100%. I couldn't agree more. But that's part of the tech piece that a lot of us just don't understand. They're like, but no, which comes first? Is it the website? Is it it can be really, really confusing. So yes, you don't have to have a website, but you do need an email list, and you can collect emails through the landing page, and you can collect them through social media. Okay. Yasmine, I did a lot of this when I first started. And then I got to a point where I just felt like I needed support. Can you speak to how an artist might know when it's time to hire someone to help them out?
I would say, and this doesn't apply to just artists, but with anything that you do in your business, or honestly sometimes your life, it gets to the point where you want to throw your computer out the window and you're pulling your hair and it's frustrating you. It might be worth looking into bringing someone on board to help you out. So the way that I like to position it is there are things that I'm really good at and that I'm an expert at that might take me 30 minutes to do, but if Jody were to attempt it, it might take her a couple hours just because she's not as familiar. So you could spend several hours of your time trying to figure something out, or you can hire someone for a small project and have them, do it for you in a shorter period of time. And you're not going to have to spend all that time pulling your hair, looking up videos on YouTube, and not even being sure if you set things up correctly. So that's one way to go about it. Obviously, with hiring someone, that's an investment that you're making in your business, but you can also think of that return on investment. So if you have an email list and you can actually connect with an audience every time you have something for sale, and just to build that relationship, is that going to help you sell more paintings? Probably. So it might not be an immediate return, but you will get a return on the investment of doing that initial setup. In terms of where you can find people, there are many ways that you can go about it. If you have, my favorite is if you have artist friends, ask for referrals. I do that with literally any type of hire I do in my business or my client's business. So the first thing I do is ask the people that I trust and know if they know someone who does this well, because then I at least have someone who could vouch for them. I know that they know what they're doing, and that takes a lot of stress out of the equation. But if you don't have that to rely on, there are websites like Fiverr.com or Upwork where there are people that you can hire for small projects to help you out with your business. And then, there are people like me who I also take on occasional projects to help with setting up email services or just back end marketing tech to make it all sort of flow together. But if you're struggling with it, it's overwhelming you, and you just don't want to or can't invest the time in figuring it out on your own, it could be a huge head start to just get someone to do the initial setup and then take it from there.
Yes, I completely agree. The initial setup, I think, is what stops
Mm-hmm.
so many of us at the beginning. And then we just can't move forward. And my story about the initial setup with when I first started email is I started off with MailChimp,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just, honestly, I was just having a bad day, and I was trying to get it set up. And I think I had been working on it. I for sure had been working on it for hours, and I was super frustrated. And my sister called. She's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm fucking trying to fucking do it." I'm so frustrated. And she's like, "You're just trying to set up an email? Just send it to me real quick." And I sent it to her. She sent it back to me in 10
Mm-hmm.
minutes. 10 minutes. And then once it was set up, then I was good to go, and I just plug and played, right? And then it was just easy every time I sent an email to do that. And so I bring this up because, to your point, if you're incredibly frustrated and you just can't move forward, that's time to ask for help. But the other thing is, we have a tendency to think, I can't afford to pay somebody hours and hours and hours to do this. And yet, for somebody who is as skilled like as you are, right, or skilled as, if this is your zone of genius, you can do, you're not going to be paying somebody hours and hours and hours. You're going to be paying them for a very small amount of time relative to what you would be spending. So you're actually, I think, if you look at, time is money, you
Mm-hmm.
could actually be saving time and money by getting support somehow. It doesn't have to. Fiverr, I have used Fiverr,
Mm-hmm.
Fiver, and
I think
Upwork.
it's
I
two
have used them
R's.
for two R's. Yes,
Fiverr, yeah,
Fiv.
.com.
Yeah, and we'll put it all in the show
Mm-hmm.
notes. So I've used these different things for different things like that, and it is really, really, really helpful. My point is, and I think Yasmin, this is your point as well, is like, don't let the initial setup stop you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let it stop you from making progress in your business, because email marketing is so integral to our success as
Mm-hmm.
artists.
Absolutely. And like the other benefit of just having someone who does this like day in and day out help you out is they know all the things that you actually like need to make this like a successful venture. So like sometimes we can think of it as like, oh, just setting up our email marketing, but they can help you potentially take it a step further if you like, help you have templates ready, set up your lists, like basically get all that infrastructure set up so it's really easy for you to build from there. Like I like to think of like a great example. Sometimes Jody and I will go rogue and we'll come up with a plan to do something. And, you know, from like like I just want to caveat that we generally plan things well in advance, so I don't want you to think that we're loosey goosey all the time. We're proper strategists, right, Jody? Um,
Oh, such proper
yeah, yeah,
strategies.
we stick to our business plan, but sometimes you get a great idea and you kind of want to go with the flow, and it can go from like literally Jody voxing me, and in like 2.5 3 hours we have something set up that we can offer as value to our audience, right? And like I'm just trying to think, this wasn't email marketing related, but there were at least like 7 different tools that I had to like connect to make that happen. But like I got a lot done in that short period of time, and now it's like functioning and working. So again, I like Jody can tell me
And
the
to
yeah, go ahead.
Now, I was to say, I'm laughing because I feel incredibly blessed, incredibly grateful, because I do come up with some crazy things, and then I'll Vox. For those of you who don't know, we're talking about Voxer as a like a walkie-talkie app that Yasmin I use, well, our team uses. But I will, this week I Voxed Yasmin something like, okay, don't hate me, but I have this idea. And she turned it around within hours, and we were able to offer our audience such a, like, I think, serve them so well, right? It's
Absolutely.
just a kind of, it was great. So having somebody that's able to do that to help you is awesome.
And that's the thing. It's like Jody has the idea, and I can immediately see how everything has to connect together to bring it to fruition, right? So, if you're bringing someone on board to help you with the technical elements, like they're able to understand how the moving parts work together to bring your idea to fruition. And that can be a lot less stressful than you having to learn 7 programs individually.
For sure. For sure. I'm going to ask you in just a minute to let people know, how they can find you. But before I do that, are there any, final thoughts that you have that could be helpful for artists when it comes to email or anything else, really?
Yes. Like, I just want you to think, what's the worst that can happen? You send out an email and like, what's literally the worst thing that can happen? That no one opens it, which probably won't be the case. I think we get so scared of putting ourselves out there, and like, as an artist, it's such a vulnerable thing already, right? Because you're literally putting yourself into the work that you create, and now you have to be like, oh, like, buy this, like, I have something pretty here, hello, pay attention to me. And that can be scary. And the worst thing that can happen is someone says no. But if you don't put yourself out there, you're not gonna get the sale anyway. So I just want you to take a chance on yourself, take the risk. It might seem overwhelming, but I promise you can do this. You have the ability, because you are just like a kick-ass artist and entrepreneur. You can make this happen. So don't let that hold you back. Don't let fear hold you back. Put yourself out there. And again, the worst thing that can happen is someone says no. And as creatives, we deal with rejection all the time. So don't let that get you down.
Yeah, and if you don't send it out, the answer is no anyway.
Exactly. Like, you're rejecting yourself if you don't do it, and that's not cool.
That is so not cool. So not cool. All right, Miss Yasmine Kashefi, how can people learn a little bit more about you and your business? I know, by the way, I'm just going to say this. Yasmine has several things that she does that I love. One of them is I love all kinds of spiritual things, including crystals and all of that. And my favorites come from Yasmine's shop, her apothecary. Tell them about it.
Sure. So we're a little bit woo here, and we like pretty crystals and rocks. I also just think they're cool because like the earth created these things that are just gorgeous. But I do have like an e-commerce business that I also run, which is called Lunar Drift Apothecary, where I sell crystals. If you do love crystals, I encourage.
We will put that.
Yeah. We'll put the link.
We'll put it in the show notes. Lunar Drift Apothecary.
And then in addition to that, I do my consulting. So I've been on a bit of a hiatus this past year from taking on any new work because I'm currently, 8 months pregnant with baby number 2. And it's been a bit of a rough pregnancy, and I don't like to bite off more than I can chew. But if you are interested in learning more about me, you're more than welcome to check out my website, yasminekashefi.com. And I'm on Instagram, but again, not super active for the aforementioned reasons. But if you do want to DM me, I'm Yasmine K. Spencer. That's my married last name on Instagram. And you can always drop me an email too. It's hello@yasminekashefi.com. So many ways to get in touch with me. I just hope that, the one thing you take away from this entire conversation is once you get over your fear, like incredible things can happen. And I feel like, Jody, you got over your fear and you were able to leverage email marketing to really grow your business. So don't be scared.
Great advice. I show up scared every single day and I just keep going, right? Mm-hmm. It's such a pleasure. Thank you for sharing all of your knowledge with our audience. If you guys are interested in working with Yasmine but can't do all of the things that you just talked about, really consider our program Studio Elite, which is so intimate, and that Yasmine is so helpful with and really helps the artists in there. She's amazing. But Yasmine, thank you for joining us today. And thank you for all of your support that you always help me with on the daily. I just adore you. And I feel so lucky to get to work with you.
My absolute pleasure. It's truly a treat. And like, I feel the same way. Like, we fangirl each other. So the feeling's mutual.
Love that. All right. Take good care. We'll see you next time. I've been lucky enough to experience a great deal of success as an artist and the confidence that comes with it. But none of that would have happened if my art was mediocre. And it was for a little while. But I want every artist to enjoy the confidence that comes from creating art that is truly fine art and art that they are proud of. So I created a course that almost 1,000 artists have now taken called the Color Course for Rebels. And it will be on sale for a limited time, May 13th through 27th. So you can save $150 off of the course during that time. And you'll learn more than just color. You'll also learn all about composition and getting unstuck and everything else that it takes to create truly fine art. If you're interested in that, head to the link in the show notes to learn more.